Let's make sure this is so I should have adjusted my stand before I did that, shouldn't I? You think you think I'd know what I'm doing by now, wouldn't you? But you would be wrong. So there we go. Right, I think we might have found the secret sauce. Let's have a look. It's not too much to ask. Right, there we go. Excellent. Now I'm just going to try and get it in focus, haven't I? So, thank you for sticking with me while we had those technical difficulties. As I say, those of you who didn't join us a minute ago, this is the Waterloo Starter set from Warlord Games. I do have some issues with it. I don't think it's a perfect starter set, but what we'll do is we'll go through it. I've already opened it. I've used the rule book and all that stuff. But I've put it all back in, and what I thought we'd do is we'd open it as if it were the first time. One thing that is going to be very different, though, is I have already undercoated all the minis. I've sprayed all of them, I think, that are in there. Maybe not the chasseurs, not the metals, but everything else I've already undercoated. They don't come undercoated. I've done it so we can crack straight on with the paint along. So this is the box itself. It's pretty good. I quite like it. It's a nice size. It's sort of A4 sized bit of. It's an A4 size box. I'm just looking around for an A4 piece of paper now. You'll have to take my word for it. But it's quite deep as well, so it's got a bit of depth to it. It's got some nice artwork on the side. The front's got a nice painting on there as well. So overall, as a product, I think that's quite nice. It looks good on the shelf, either at home or in the shop. So that's a really, really good start. So when we take off the lid of the box, this is going to absolutely destroy the autofocus. So as we come inside, now I'll be honest with you, I can't remember if the rulebook is underneath this or on top of it. I've put it back on top of it, but you'll see why in a second. Now the rulebook is the full Black Powder 2 rulebook. It's only hard. It's a not hardcover. Sorry, it doesn't have the complete hobby sections in the back. In fact, no, it does have the complete hobby sections in the back. So you've got the American Civil War one there, bit of Waterloo action, Quatre Bras, some a general history thing, and then you've got the full rules in there. Now, one thing that I have found with it, and I found this with the Clash of Eagles book. Now, I bought the Clash of Eagles book when it first came out, so I think that was the first print, you could call it. Maybe different now, but the cover, the edge of it here was peeling away. It's like almost like a veneer, like a varnish, and that was peeling off at the side. So I've had to strengthen that with some sellotape. That's not the worst problem in the world, but again, it's just a little bit annoying. So you've got the full book. It's in full color. It's really nice. It's good to use. This is what I generally refer to when I'm doing my videos. I've got the hardback book, but I prefer this because it's a lot smaller. You can just have it lying around, and you can. It's good for ease of use. So rulebook, good. Happy with that. Let me just check something. Now I don't know if it's got the basic stats for Napoleonics in here. So it does, yeah. So again, if you just want this for Napoleonics, you've got the stats in here. Now that said, I strongly recommend that you get the supplements, Clash of Eagles, Albion Triumphant, whichever one you're most interested in. Cannot recommend them highly enough. They are superb books. So that's the rule book. There's not a huge amount to say about that. It's very good. It's the one that it's nice. Mobile size, you can stick it in your figure case or whatever. You can take it around with you. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments. ZKSF, just painting some kit-bashed French dragoons. Love the channel and would never have got into Wargaming without it. So I don't know whether to say that's awesome or to deeply apologise for that one. But no, joking aside, that's really good to hear, man. Thanks. That's the kind of comment that I really appreciate getting on the channel. Because it's, ultimately that's what I want my channel to be. I want it to be something that gets more people interested in Wargaming in general and Napoleonic specifically. The A5 has the same content as the A4, not condensed. I don't believe so, Matthew. I've not read it word for word, but you've got all the rules that you can see in here: advanced rules, commanders, shooting, melee, all that good stuff. And at the back, now I wasn't sure if this was missing. I don't know why, but I thought it was. But this is what, I guess, if it was a Warhammer rulebook, this would be the hobby section. So this is where you've got the different periods. So we've got the War of Spanish Succession, a bit of Louis XIV action going on there. Clifton Moor, which is Highland Rebellion, I think. Some French Indian Wars. Those Mohicans are pretty cool. I do like the last of the Mohicans. 7 Years' War battle. I don't really know much about the 7 Years' War. I should probably learn more about that. Bit of American War Independence, or what do you guys call it in America? Revolutionary War, isn't it? Things like that. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's got all the content in here. I don't want to do a full flick through because it just shows I've got opposable thumbs. That's not really much more than that. And as I say, it's got the rules for the specific units in there. And then I did show a minute ago. Let's see if I can find it. Probably can't. Here we go. The full list of different types. So here you've got like militia. So you could use that as Opolcheni, or you could use it as Landwehr. You could use them as Spanish even. Yeah, I mean the Spanish weren't necessarily a militia, but you could use them for that. So yeah, it's as far as I can tell, it's the full content. Right. So next we get the quick reference sheet. Now this is in the back of the A4 rulebook. It's a double-sided. It's on A4, but you've got it here on a bit of card. Now I really like this. This insert here. You've got the two sides. There's nothing on them, but you've got casualty markers for the French on the back. Just get those on camera, and then you also get the casualty markers for the British on the other side as well. So they're really nice. I really like those. I think it's something that's a little bit different. You can cut them out here, cut that out off the sides, and then you've got this quick reference sheet. You can maybe photocopy it. The one for version 1, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but version 1 was available as a free download, the quick reference sheet. I can't imagine that they've not done that for version 2. To be honest, there's not a huge amount of differences anyway. So the version 1 is probably out there somewhere. If it's not on the main website, it'll be on Scribd. But as I say, I can't imagine that it's not. So now we get to the exciting part of the box. We get to the minis. Now, just to reiterate, I have undercoated these. They don't come undercoated, which is probably just as well because I did them super quickly, so they're probably terribly undercoated. But we get rid of this one, and we've got the figures inside. Now, we've got a number of units in there. So we've got... these are British sprues. Now, I've actually made a mess of these already. So that's a great start. So these are the British. Now, you'll see I've sprayed most of them red. I've sprayed some of them white. We'll get to the reasons why in a second. I'm just going to pop that over there. I've got the metals in a bag there. I'll pop those there. Don't worry, I'm going to put them back on camera when I've emptied the box. I've got the French infantry here. They've had a little bit more prep on. And then, no, I haven't undercoated the chasseurs. I didn't think I had. So you've got the chasseurs here. And then you get the bases as well. Now, that's a surprise. I didn't think you got the bases in here. Are they the base sizes I use? Probably not. But they're definitely going to be useful for something. I'll tell you one thing. They're pretty heavy as well. They're nice, thick plastic. These ones as well. Let me cut one off. Always cut away from your kids, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So these are they're not quite nice and thick. They're probably 2 millimeters, maybe 3. And they've got these on the bottom. Now, I actually quite like these on Warlord Games bases because they stop the base being flush to the table. So you can pick the base up by the edge of the base instead of trying to pick them up by the figures. So I actually quite like that. Although I do end up cutting most of them off because then they match my other bases. So that's really good. I'm going to grab a tape measure at some point. In fact, I don't need to grab a tape measure. I've got my cutting mat here. So I'll measure that in a second. And then we also get half a dozen dice as well. So that's awesome. So that's the start of the set. I said I was going to measure one of these. How big are they? 25mm square by the looks of it. So that's good for cavalry. And then we've got the smaller one here. is, let's have a look at that one. That's 20 mil square. So you've got the face sizes that I like to use. So that's even better for me. So that's a nice bonus there. So let's have a look at the sprues. Now, Warlord Games, they get a lot of hate for their figures. Some of it deserved, some of it not. And I think they're British infantry. They get a lot of hate for these. I don't think that's very well deserved. I think these are actually very nice models. If I look up here, then in fact, rather than do that, let's bring the camera down. Now I think there's quite a nice amount of detail on here. I'm going to get my new streaming brush. There we go. So you've got things like the cross lace there. That's quite nice. You've got the cross straps. One thing that is a little bit unfortunate is this bit here. That's what's called the bird's nests. Let's get that into the center of the shot. These are the nests. Now you glue those onto the shoulders, and that's how you get your elite companies. It's not great. I do much prefer Perry, who give you separate arms, and they've got the nests already on them. Or you have the Victrix ones, who do an entire separate box just of flank companies, which I'm not entirely sure how I feel about those. But it's not the end of the world, I guess. One thing I do like about having the separate elite company arms, and this is a massive thing, is if you want to do a battalion of light infantry, then they should all have the bird's nests. And normally you'd have to buy a gazillion boxes just to get the elite companies out of them. Well, not in this case. You can just use the flank company box, and that gives you everything you need. So that is an absolute bonus for having flank companies in a separate box. Now, there's two types of British infantry here, and it's important that you differentiate the two. Well, it's going to be particularly important for me. I'll go on to why in a second. The way to tell is just here. They've got different noggins. They've got different heads. They've got different headwear. This guy's got the Belgic Shako. Now, his is covered. All the British... Let me zoom in on this. Sorry, let me get him to the center of the screen. There we are. So these Shakos here are the Belgic Shako, the ones they wore at Waterloo. You can tell because they've got the rising peak at the front, the false front. They're the British infantry ones. So that's a British infantry sprue. So that's nice. We can pop those to one side. Now these guys here, they're the exact same figures. So let's let me show you the actual men. So they're a different red. I'm not really sure why that is. I might use different sprays on them. So they're the same figures. They're the same poses. But the difference here, oh, you can see actually the way the paint's spattering. This is clearly where my spray can was on the way out. They've got different hats on. These guys have got like field caps on. So let's hold that up as well. So here we can see the field cap. These guys are Hanoverians. So they are different. You can... could you use them as Scottish? Don't think you could. I think it's a different hat. But these guys are the Hanoverians. So they're going to be separate from the British. So I'm going to separate those out. So there we go. Now, because the figures are exactly the same, what the mistake I've made isn't too much of an issue. Because what I've had to do is I ran out of red spray. Now, that's just as well because some of you will know, I have a British Army already. But it's a Peninsular War British Army. So their Shakos, very different from these Belgic ones. The Peninsular War ones are what's called a stovepipe Shako. And that goes straight up, it's flat at the top and straight down the other side. It doesn't have, if I show you in profile, you'll be able to see it better. It doesn't have the, I'll show it better. It doesn't have the false front that these Belgic Shakos have. So that would be good for Portuguese, actually. You could do those, Portuguese with covered Shakos. But because I've got a Peninsular War British Army, I don't really want to do a Waterloo British Army as well. So I'm actually going to paint these as something of a project that I was going to do this year. It looks like it may end up being pushed back to next year. But these guys are going to be US infantry. They're actually going to be painted for the War of 1812. They did have a slightly different uniform. I'm not going to lie, it is a little bit different. The Shakos are quite different. But because they're covered, I'll be able to get away with it. And the jackets were quite different as well. The American Army of 1812, as far as I can tell from my research so far, wasn't that uniform. The units themselves were fairly uniform, but between units, there was quite a lot of variation. And I have seen art of figures who are basically wearing dark blue versions of the British uniform. So we're going to have a look at those a bit later on when we get to the paint along section of today's video. Now, I've got a number of sprues sprayed white, including some of the Hanoverian sprue. So this is a Hanoverian one. Now, obviously, the US had very different hats to the Hanoverians. So I'm going to do these bodies as Americans, and then I'm just going to swap out some heads from a red painted sprue. So this one here, for argument's sake. So these shakos will go on, sorry, these hats will go on these bodies. These shakos will go on these bodies, but these bodies will be painted blue, and they will be the US. So that's the British and Allied contingent of the box. I'm just going to have a quick shufty at the comments, see what's going on there. Dan, guess what you're painting this morning? Is it going to be more Austrians? I'm guessing it's more Austrians, although I know you're working on your Warhammer at the moment as well. So it could be something else. That's General Dan in the chat there. David Oxley, agree, it's got me back into Napoleonic and Wargaming in general after a break of 40 years. Well, welcome back. I'd be interested to let me know what your perception of the hobby is now. How has it changed from when you left 40 years ago? Give me some positives, give me some negatives as well. I'd be really interested in, you know, coming back to it with fresh but informed eyes. I think that would be quite a good one. Matthew Hogfab, cheers. Yeah, no problem. Louis Baby, hey to you as well. Hey all, crossing obstacles. ZKSF asks, any chance of you and Seventh Son doing a collaboration? Both great Napoleonic and other things channels. Would be great to see you on their Plastic Crack podcast or in a joint battle report. Yeah, you know, collaborations are something I've never really looked at doing. It's not because I don't want to. It's just a question of organising it, really. So I have watched Seventh Son's content, and it's absolutely superb. His figures, and more specifically his terrain, is absolutely incredible. Something that I could definitely do with is busting out better terrain. So Seventh Son, I mean, if he's welcome, if he's willing to drop me a line, then I'm more than willing to sort that out for him, or with him rather. James Highfield, if you wanted, you could use any of those as Hanoverians. They use the cap and both types of Shako. Yeah, they did. Yeah, absolutely. I like using the caps for Hanoverians because it differentiates them on the battlefield. Of course, yeah, they did wear Shakos on the battlefield, of course, but it's just a way of differentiating them. So that's a fair point. So have I ever considered doing Danish Napoleonic images? Someone's asked me this before, actually. I'll be honest, no, I haven't. But that's just because I just never really got around to it. The Danish campaign of 1808 is quite an interesting one. I was reading a lot about it when I was doing my deep dive on the Spanish army, because they sent a brigade of Spanish troops to sort out the Danes, which I thought was really interesting. So I read a bit about it then, but it's not something I know a huge amount about, if I'm honest. So that's not a criticism of doing Danish army or the Danish battles. It's just something that I don't really know a huge amount about at the moment. Shrine for King, do I have 6mm Napoleonic miniatures? I don't have 6mm Napoleonic miniatures. General Dan does. He's just had a load commission painted. I've never... 6mm's cool. I do like it. It's not something that I would want to paint myself, and I don't really have the money to commission a whole army of them. 50mm's about as small as I go, but having said that, if I did do 6mm, and I have, you know, toyed with it in the past, I would probably play Blucher in 6mm, and I would base them on... I've seen on the internet you can buy MDF bases that are designed to be used for Blucher, so they've got the holes where the unit values are in and all that stuff. So that's probably what I would do if I did 6mm. I don't at the moment, but I certainly wouldn't write it off. Olanju Gamers, vive l'empereur! Vive l'empereur to you, my friend. Have you considered covering Napoleonic era video games like Napoleon Total War? Yeah, not really. I have thought about doing streaming Napoleonic Total War, before. I used the Darth mod version. I'm told there's another version out there. There's also Napoleon Total War 3, which is like a fan-made version or something. I don't really understand it, to be honest. But the main reason is because my computer is not very good. I shouldn't say this because I'm streaming on my computer right now. He might get offended and throw everyone off. But I bought. So I've used Asus computers for a long old time now, probably about 10 years. And my last Asus finally died to death. It actually fell over, and the input was all knackered, and eventually it wasn't taking charge, which is, yeah, that's fair enough. I knocked it over, so I can't really complain too much. But I replaced it with another Asus, which I thought was better, and it's not. It's absolutely dreadful. Yeah, no, it's really bad. I was really disappointed because I thought it was more powerful, so I could finally play Skyrim. I absolutely love Skyrim. I thought I could finally play Skyrim with all the mods that I'd heard about and all that stuff, and it'd be great. But there's about a half a second delay between doing anything on Skyrim and actually doing it, and it makes it unplayable. So it makes me really sad. But I do need another computer. When I do that, then I might be able to have to stream Napoleon Total War. Guess you believe in the machine spirit. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I had enough trouble setting this one up. So I've got on the painting mat now a sprue of the French. Now I've chopped the sides off here. Rather controversially, I paint my figures on the sprue. I find for speed of painting, you can't beat it. You can't rival it. When it comes to my Napoleonics, I am all about the speed of painting. Dan, who's in the chat, he manages to do very, very high quality painting, and he's got his speed up as well. He puts them all on corks, I think it is. That's not for me. I just paint them on the sprue. But by cutting the sides off, I can get my brush round the side, and we can get those those painted. Now these I am going to do as French. I thought about doing them as something else, but because they've got the great coats on, you can't really tell what they're going to be. I was thinking of doing Italians, which reminds me, stay tuned this Sunday for a start collecting Italians video. That's going to be quite an interesting one. I spent like all Tuesday evening making the thumbnail, which I'm quite pleased with, even if I do say so myself. So I'm going to do these guys as French infantry. Now you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sprues in here of infantry. So that's enough for 2 battalions because you get 6 figures per sprue. One of the things I don't like about this set, and I'll get onto it with the British as well, is on a sprue, you get 2 elite flank companymen. So you got 1, 2. These guys have got the epaulettes, excuse me, and you've also got the 1, 2 briquettes. Those are the little short sabers that the French elite companies wore. So you've got 2 of them, 3 regular ones. So that means that now I like battalions of 36, but these are designed to be battalions of 24. So you've got 6, 12, 18, 24. It's always a risk when I do maths live on camera. So I've got 24 figures there, which means that I should have 1 in 6 of them. Sorry, 1 in 3 of them should be an elite company, because there's 6 companies. One of those is a grenadier company. One of those is a light company. So if I want 1 in 3 to be light companies, and I've got 24 figures, then I should have 8, actually, which works. So hang on, 1, 2. Is that right? 8, 16, 24. Yes, no, that works. All right, okay. Well, that's not a criticism of this set then. Sorry, I'm completely wrong in that one. But when I add the command and then another sprue, then the ratios are going to be out. So that's not too bad at the moment if you're going to do 24 and add a metal command. I am going to add some command. I'll come to those in a second. That is a main criticism I do have of the set, though, and that is a legitimate criticism, is you don't get any command sprues with these guys. Now, the Perrys, they obviously do plastic command. Warlords, all their commands are metal, which we'll get to that in a second. But so it's a shame that you don't get any commands in there. I don't really understand why, but you don't. I mean, I could understand if they said, well, there's no metal in the set and the commands are metal. But, ta-da, here we go. There's metal in the set. So it makes no sense to me that you don't get any commands, but yeah, it's just the way it is, to be honest. So this is the bag of metals that you get. Now, I had a very quick shifty in here earlier on, and I don't think the British special miniature is in here. Now, that's not because he wasn't packed. Oh, no, he is. I was going to say, that's not because he wasn't packed. That's because I've taken him out and moved him elsewhere. But no, he is in there. That's fine. So we've got a metal cannon. Now, this is... their jackets are quite interesting. Their jackets look like they're Royal Horse Artillery, but I don't think they are. I think they're just Royal Artillery. Maybe they're in their dress. Yeah, very odd. So that's the cannon that you get there. You also get the 2 wheels and the gun. And then these are the 2 box-specific figures you get for them. Now, they're okay. You've got an officer here. He's like leaning on his umbrella. He's, I mean, that's quite cool. It's quite nice. I'm not quite sure why he's in such a campy pose, but never mind. Yeah, he's not bad. He may, as I say, he may end up being an American. You can see his saber hilt there. That's quite prominent. The Americans are very, very specific saber hilts. So I might have to either convert that, or you can have his head cut off, and then I'll stick either a bicorn on it, or a stovepipe Shako, and we can use him for the peninsula. That's not necessarily the end of the world. I'll tell you what I might end up doing, actually, is I might end up cutting his head off and giving him a light infantry Shako, because he looks like he's sort of skirmishing a little bit. And then we've got this chap here. Now, I'm not going to paint this guy as a Frenchman. That bicorn and the sort of the cut of his uniform, it really screams to me that he's either Spanish or an Italian. So I'm going to paint him as one of those 2 things. I may even end up painting him as a Portuguese. Let me just get rid of this bit of flash. I may even end up painting him as Portuguese for my recently raised 1st Battalion of the Portuguese Legion. But no, he's a nice figure. I really like him. I like his moustache. I think that's quite cool. The bicorn, for me, doesn't scream Waterloo. It screams much earlier. Or it screams not French. So, yeah, it's a strange figure to include. He's not particularly Waterloo-y. One that would have been much better, but you get him in the the Hougoumont set, would have been Lieutenant Lagros, the Enforcer. But, yeah, I suppose, yeah, it makes sense that you get him in the Hougoumont set. But, yeah, no, he's okay. He is almost certainly not going to be French, though. I might end up painting him as either a Italian, like I say. I might do him as a Spaniard because I've got another figure on foot I think would go really nicely with him on a command base. So those are the metals. Like I say, slightly strange that you don't get the command because they actually do some really nice command models. Now this is a officer that, so people say to me, oh, Warlord Games, their metals are crap. You know, they're not very good at all. I think they are wrong. I think this figure here is the, where is he? There he is. He's the officer that you get in the French light infantry box. He is lovely. Look at the animation on him as he walks forward. He's drawing his saber. All right, his saber's a bit short maybe, but he's drawing his saber. That placid expression he's got on his face. The cloak draped over him. I think he's absolutely lovely. He's going to need re-undercoating as well. I think he's really nice. So I'll be certainly using him. This guy here, you get in the line box. This one, not so good. He's got like his arm bandaged up. Not entirely sure why. He's got a curved saber, so that makes him nice for light infantry. He's got his pistol there in his belt as well. One thing I do like about him is his scabbard is curved as well. Now, often you see people with sabers, curved sabers, and straight scabbards. He's also got the nice little light infantry boots going on there as well, with the tassels hanging down the front. So he's okay. He's okay. It's again, it's a strange sculpting choice, that one, but you can't deny that he's done a good job with the sculpting choice that he's made. I've started painting one here. I've got a little tub of these. As you can see, I've started doing him as a Swiss officer. If you haven't seen my part 1 on the Swiss, then you go and check that out, and you'll see why I love the Swiss so much. And then, is that it for the spares I've got? Yeah, I think I've used all the others. Now, one other thing that you get in the command set. So these are figures that you don't, these figures here, you don't get in the Waterloo box. I just want to point that out clearly. But you do get them in the separate command, so you can always buy those. Now, one thing that you do get is this here. There's another one that's exactly the same, but instead of the spear tip, it's got an eagle on the top. I've obviously used that one. I really like these. I like that you get two, because it means that you can... So, for argument's sake, where is their figure? Have I got him here? This guy here. So he can quite easily be converted, cut his hand off, twist it round. He could be converted into an alternative standard bearer, and you've got the finial to go with him. The one with a point at the top is called finial. The one with the eagle at the top is rather uninspiringly called an eagle, although, you know, we all love a bit of French eagle, don't we? So I'm just going to have a quick check on the chat. How's that going? Clive, don't buy branded computers. Get someone to build you one. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I probably should have done that. But I needed it right now, really. And to be honest, I don't really know much about computers. So I can't say to someone, oh, yeah, can you build one to these specs? Because I don't know what those specs are, to be honest. Frankie Fez, what Clive said. Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's absolutely the way to go. Your videos are stock collecting, which are amazing. Well, thank you, Redscope. However, as someone considering coming into the Napoleonic side of the hobby, do you have any general advice on where to start? I'm actually going to do a video on that at some point. I started writing it once, and then it wasn't coming out how I liked it, so I started it again. Second time wasn't really coming out how I liked it either. I do have a video that is it's got the Vistula Legion on as a thumbnail. I can't remember the exact title of it. It's something like how to select an army or something like that. And that's I think that would be a good starting point. I ended that series after that first video because I wasn't really happy with the direction it was going, but it's definitely a series I want to pick up again. I guess that command keeps the cost down a bit while encouraging people to buy their metal command packs separately. Yeah, I guess so, Benedict. It just seems a little strange, though, to be honest. I would prefer that, to be honest, rank and file, and then unique command figures. Yeah. I'll just tell your builder what you use a computer for, you'll advise the specs. Yeah, no, that's probably fair, to be honest. I've got a couple of friends who build computers as well. But, yeah, no, you are not wrong. I should probably just bite the bullet and do that, really. It just seems a bit, I don't know. So now we come to the final content. Having talked for the last 10 minutes about something that's not in the box, let's get back to stuff that actually is in the box. And these here are the French Chasseurs. Now, as I said, there's no command here, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, because the Warlord Chasseur command is terrible. Really, really is very, very poor. When these first came out, there was no other plastic Chasseurs on the market. I've just spent absolutely forever painting some Perry Chasseurs. Now, I'll be honest with you, I did not enjoy painting them at all, but they are a lot nicer than these guys. These guys are just a little bit... they're quite small, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because, you know, they're like cavalrymen. They should be quite small anyway. The sabres here are... the sabre is very thin and delicate. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing in of itself, because, you know, they shouldn't be running around with meat cleavers. And probably the Perry ones are a bit too thick, but that does make them very weak. You might be able to see here. If I do, I don't want to press it too much. But there is, even though it's attached to the sprue here, there is still quite a bit of give in there. So just be very, very careful when you're clipping these off the sprue. Now the horses, we come to the horses. The horses are in very odd poses. They don't look very good at all, I'm afraid. You could potentially get away with using the bodies, buying some spare horses, gluing them on there. But as you've got them in the box, I would suggest that we just get them painted up. Incidentally, these are the same models that the Warlord do for their Lancers as well. They just add Lancers to the sprue instead of the Sabres. So I really, really don't like the Lancers either. I'm desperate for the Perrys to do plastic Lancers. I have converted some from the Chasseurs that I've done. That will be a Maxing Your Minis video. But as it stands, not massively over impressed with the Chasseurs. But, you know, we'll get them done anyway. We will get them done as Chasseurs. I did consider doing them as Garde d'Honneur. but I think we'll just do them as the chasseurs. Now, I'm just going through how many sprues I've got of here. You get 2 guys per sprue, 2 horses per sprue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So I've got 12 in there. So I've got a full regiment without needing command. You could quite easily turn this guy, or maybe even this arm actually, into a standard. Just chop off the hilts there, drill through the hand, get a bit of wire or plastic rod through there, grab a spare finial from your command, or a spare eagle rather, bang that on top, and then get the flag on there. So you could do it that way as well. Now, another thing you don't get in the box are the booklets, and that's a bit of a shame because, again, all right, I guess it keeps costs down, but how much does the booklet for the Hanoverians, the British, the French, and the Chasseurs 4 sheets of A4 cost? I mean, really, you could have got them in there as well. And then you would have got the flags and a couple of other things. Without the command, I guess, the flags aren't so important because you haven't got the command to put them on anyway. So that's the chasseur. So let's put those to one side. Now, I wanted to do something. I wanted to get straight into the painting, but I'm going to interrupt myself. As I can't remember who said, excuse me while I interrupt myself. I think it might have been the late, great Murray Walker. In fact, I'm fairly sure it was. And what I'm going to do is I want to show these figures. Now, these are from a range which I very much doubt many people have heard of. I cannot remember for the life of me how I found this range, but as soon as I did, I had a look at it and I stored it. I kept it on my favorites. I finally got round to ordering, and the figures came through the post last week, so I just wanted to show you. Now, these are from a manufacturer. They are a Russian manufacturer. Now, one of the bonuses that you get from buying from Russia is you get a box that's like this. It's got all the world's Russian stamps on, which I'm not a stamp collector. Oh, I shouldn't have shown you that. It's got my address on. Never mind. No one's going to come and kill me, are they? Now the yeah, so you get all those Russian stamps, which are really cool. I'm not a stamp collector, but I really like Russian stamps. So these are from a range called Toy Armies. It's the 1812 range. Now they do Russians. That's what these are. They also do a couple of British, a couple of French, but it's mostly Russians. Now, these are the command. Now, they've all got like big Homburg pipes. I'm not really sure what the historical evidence for those is, but there you go. So he's got like a big one there as well. But this is the Guard artillery they do. Now, let me just focus in on these if I can. There we are. Hang on. I'm trying to focus in on the guy with the charge bag. So the charge bag is... it's like a sack of gunpowder. You would put that in at the end of the barrel, and then the guy would ram it home. There we are. Oh, hang on, it keeps fading in and out again. And the guy would ram it home, and that's how you would get your charge for your cannonball. There you go. I need to put my hand behind it. Now, what I've done is I've sprayed these guys white, washed them with the Apothecary White, the contrast paint. And I think these guys are absolutely superb. They're not completely flawless, but they are very, very, very nice. I really like these guys. Ordering them was a bit of a pain in the arse. You had to set up like a payment thing. It was super weird. I still don't really know how I did it. I emailed the guy who ran the company and said, look, I don't want to sign up for this shop thing that you have to pay for. And he said, oh, I'll set you up. So you just need to pay me the money. So I was like, all right, okay. Now, one thing I will say is that they were not cheap. I bought basically everything from their Russian range, which was 2 cannons. I've got the cannons down. Oh, no, I've got the cannons here, actually. So these are the guns. I've started painting them. So yeah, I got 2 of these with crew. So these are the 2 crews on my painting stick. I also got 2 sets of high command. So I got this set here, which is, I think it's Bennigsen, and I'm not sure who this dude is. I've also got the second set, which has got Tsar Alexander and a couple of aides-de-camp in it. And I think it's got, what's his name? The guy who the Russian offensive in World War II was named after. Him. Anyway, it's gone. So these are really nice figures. Now, I got them and I looked at them because when I did my video on the Guard Cavalry, which was a while ago now, but it's still one of my favorite all-time videos, I had a look through them. Let me see. They also come with free Russian word search there as well to improve your Russian. But when I was doing the video on the Guard Cavalry, I noticed that they also came. They also sell these. Now, these are Russian Guard Cossacks, who you may remember went to battle in full dress, and the Tsar quipped that they looked like they were ready to go to a wedding. So they now have Mendelssohn's Wedding March as their regimental tune, which I particularly like. So this guy is the officer. Now, as I say, these are Guard Cossacks. They're quite slight, but these are Bagration. That's the one. Thank you very much. I know I get there in the end. Well, I didn't get there. I knew you guys would know. I don't know. I was just having a brain fart there. This is the officer for the Guard Cossacks. I think he is lovely. I really like the animation. His sword looks a little bit short to me. It looks like he's holding like a big dagger. But I think that can be replaced with a plastic one fairly simply. I think he's absolutely lovely. Look at the way he's shouting. The way the tassels are coming off. Now, one thing that I will say is if you look at it, actually, I'll grab the musician. He's a better example. The musician here, there's a lot of flash on him. A lot of flash. There's a bit up there as well. There's all this big Mickey Mouse ear there. That's all flash. So the casting is not perhaps as smooth as it could be if we turn him around. We can see there's quite a lot of flashing under his arm there as well. So the mold's probably not pressed hard enough. You can see all down his leg here. There's that's all flash there as well. So they're going to need a bit of cleaning up. But overall, I think these guys are absolutely gorgeous. Now, Guard Cossacks are something which not many manufacturers do. So it's nice to see a company that does them, and it's nice to support a Russian company doing Russian figures as well. Here's a guy. Now, one thing that you'll see is that you'll need to drill his hand out. You don't get any lancers with them, so you have to provide your own. But that's not necessarily the end of the world. But no, I think these guys are really, really nice. I'm looking forward to painting these up. I haven't done so yet because I wanted to show them off on the channel. As I say, these are from a company called Toy Armies. Now, you've even got this guy here. He's holding his lance up in the air. He's shouting his Cossackie war cry, and he's holding his lance overarm. Now, you might say that's a bit stupid. They didn't do that, but I'm reading the Cavalry Maiden at the moment, and they absolutely did do that. She hated having to do the drill where they twirl the lances over their heads. She couldn't really see the point of it. It was to build up strength, and also they would actually attack with them overarm in the style of like a Greek spear. So that's the second trooper. And the third trooper, he's a little bit of a disappointment. He is, again, you have to drill out his arm, but he's a little bit static. But one thing I really, really do like about him is if I put him square on the base, so he's going to be difficult because he's sliding about a bit. Put him square on the base. He is slightly leaning over to the right, as if he's putting his weight behind it. I've been asked to put a web store. I will do that. I will link it in the description at some point. But yeah, no, highly, highly recommended. Someone's asked me, hang on a second. I've just dropped something I need to pick up before I lose it. There we go. Someone said to me, did I get hammered by customs? I slightly did. Yes. Yeah, like I say, it was not cheap. In the end, I bought 3 sets of commanders. I want to say 3, possibly 2. They're all mounted. Hang on, let me see if I can get them up. Here we are. So I got 2 or 3 sets of mounted commanders. Russian generals 1, 2, and 3. Not particularly excitingly named. And I also bought the cannons. Were Russian horse artillery aiming 6-pounder gun, and I got Russian Guard horse artillery with the guns. They've got 2 of those. Now they do a Cossack horse artillery. Wasn't too bothered about that. I only really wanted the Guard because you can't really get them anywhere. And the They do like quite a lot actually. Now I look at it, and I'm looking at it here. They do like guard horse artillery limbers. They do all sorts of stuff. But I ordered 2 cannons, 3 sets of commanders, and 4 packs of cavalry. And after postage and customs, it cost me just under £100. So really not cheap. Don't get me wrong, that's not a cheap amount. But I'm really glad I got them, because it's something, as I say, that you don't see very much. So I've just popped a link in the chat to them. Don't disappear though, you can save that one for later. But yeah, highly recommend those guys. Send him an email. If you do, let him know that that I sent you. You never know, he might give me some freebies. I very much doubt it though. But yeah, no, so really I just wanted to promote him because, you know, I'm thinking of doing a series on the smaller manufacturers that you know, we all know about, the Perrys and Warlord and Victrix and those, you know, Front Rank. We know all about those. But here's some little dude in Russia. He's probably operating out of his kitchen, and I thought I'd give him a shout out because he makes products that I really like. Not cheap, as I say, it's quite expensive, but I really liked it and I thought it was worth promoting. Now, speaking of stuff that I really like and is also worth promoting, this arrived yesterday. Now, I've got a bit of a mixed review here. These are from Marowski Miniatures. I've almost certainly pronounced that wrong. I do apologise to any of my Polish viewers. But anyone who's watched the channel for any length of time will know that I have nothing but the highest respect for the Polish people and their military history in particular. But these did take a long time to arrive. I ordered these in February and they only arrived yesterday. That said, the reason why I'm talking about them is he is doing this special offer again. Now, these are the Duchy of Warsaw. Some of you may know I've been working on the Vistula Legion, and that's cool. These guys are Duchy of Warsaw. You can tell because they've got the chapka on. Now, these are light infantry. Oh, well, I say they're light infantry. They're a light infantry company. These are Leger or Voltigeurs. They've also got the Polish-style cut to their coats. It's called a kurta, the Polish jacket. So I've got these, and I have to say they're very nice as well. I'm going to grab a marching one because I often look at figures and I measure their quality by their faces. Faces are quite difficult to do well. Faces and hands, weirdly. They're quite difficult to do well. So if the face has got quite a lot of detail on, then they're normally pretty strong. They're normally a good sculpt. Now, for the marching line, there's 3 different sculpts. So 1, 2, let me get the third one if I can find it. 2 of them are quite similar, but they are different. Yeah, here we are. Those are the 3 sculpts there. So you've got marching arm back, swinging, marching arm across his chest, and marching where he's just sort of, you know, waltzing around. So let's have a look at this guy because he's front on. He's probably the easiest to assess. So you can see, oh, hang on, let me just get his face in the shade a little bit. There we go. So his face is not bad. The details are a little bit blobby. He looks a little bit like Ghostface from the Scream films, but it's not too bad. I have a feeling that when I put the contrast paints on him, that's really going to come up. So these guys, really like them so far. They're quite delicate. They're a lot thinner than certainly Warlord. Let's compare similar-ish poses. So you can see the Duchy of Warsaw figure is quite a bit shorter, and he's a lot slighter than the British. But you know, I don't necessarily mind that so much. I wouldn't probably mix them in the same battalion, but I mean, I'm not intending to mix them in the same battalion, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm quite pleased with them. And then the Grenadiers, we've got with the bearskins on. Now there's a slight difference to a French bearskin here, because it's got a bomb on the front. That's fine, but it's got this here. It's got a peak. It's got a visor. So if you are wanting to do Duchy of Warsaw and you are that, you know, you are bothered about that small details, then if you're going to convert them out of French Grenadiers, make sure you add a little visor. The best thing I would suggest for that would be a hole puncher, and punch a hole out, and then, you know, cut it off to fit, and then glue it on the front. That's probably how I would do that. So let's have a look. Have I seen the Avonpost minis? They look fantastic, and there's some UK distributors. Yes, I do. I have seen the Avonpost figures. In fact, I have some. I painted them up as Dutch Grenadiers, and they are very nice. They would. That's a good point, actually. They would scale really nicely with these guys. They're quite small. They're quite slight, but they would scale beautifully with these. The only thing that's put me off them is they're expensive. They're really expensive. I've said I just paid for those Russian ones. But for the Avonpost, if I wanted, say, a battalion of French infantry, I'd be paying a lot more than I'm willing to pay, I think, to get that. That said, their Lancers are particularly nice. Again, another problem I've got with Avonpost. I'm just... I say I've got a problem, that's the only one, and then I keep coming up with them. Another problem I've got with Avonpost is that they only do one pose. So for their infantry, they've got several poses, but they'll have one NCO pose. They'll have one guy marching, one guy at attention, one guy at ease, and that's fine. But for marching, at least with these Marowski miniatures, there's 3 different poses. So yeah, I do really like the Avonpost stuff, but it is quite expensive, and the lack of poses I find a little bit of an issue. Storm of Steel, welcome, friend. You are painting some 50mm French Napoleonic right now. That's good to hear. How did the Caesar Awards go? Did you win? I haven't had a chance to check back on those ones yet. Shring 7, I fancy their Krakows. Well, I mean, we don't judge on this channel, but whatever floats your boat. No, I'm only joking. They do look very nice, actually. And the thing is, with those guys in particular, those being small is actually really good. Their nickname was Napoleon's Pygmies, Napoleon's Pygmy Cavalry. So I think them being a bit small on the small side might be really good. So no, that's that's fine. No, I looked at those as well. I may go for those in the future. But he is running this offer again. It was 3 battalions of 36 figures. 2 guns, 6 skirmishing figures, and a regiment of Polish Hussars. I'm going to grab those in a bit. Well, Polish Cavalry. I went for Lancers. I've ordered a second set, and I've got Hussars in that one. And that came to 150 quid. So it's not cheap, but you get a lot for your money. It's certainly cheaper, or you get more for the than you do for the sorry, I just I got a message there. Right, yes. So this is the command box. Now, I haven't actually had a look at this yet. I saved this for today. We've got 2 officers, 2 holderers, and 2 musicians. And that's not bad. I would have preferred 1 drummer. In fact, as General Dan may tell you, I would have preferred no drummers. I absolutely hate doing musicians. I don't know why. I just hate doing them. I would have preferred a sapper, but, you can't have everything, I suppose. The 2 officers look very, very nice. They look good. I think I've got a mounted officer from these guys, actually. I bought from Brigade Games. So they're nice. This guy here, I'll come back to him in a second, so I'll pop him up there. This is the Eagle Bearer. That's the standard bearer, and you get an eagle in the set. So that's quite nice, because the front rank, you have to buy their eagles separately, which is a bit weird. I say it's weird. It's good because I've got them on my Vistula Legion. Whether they actually had eagles or not is a different matter, but they look cool, so that's why I got them. So that's the Polish eagle there, very different from the French one. And then we've got the 2 drummers. He's quite nice. I like him. And this guy is sort of walking forward a bit more determinedly. Now, some of you will have seen this here. That's a halberd, and that halberd goes with this chap here, the one we've not talked about. He is an Eagle Guard, is his name, which I always think is quite a fun title. You can tell because he's got a halberd, would be one reason. He's got these 2 buckets here. Now, those buckets have got pistols in. So you basically come up, you try and take the eagle off him, and he's either going to chop you up with his halberd, or he's going to literally give you both barrels of pistols and try and defend the eagle bearer. There's actually should be 2 of these. The Perrys in their command, they give you 2. So again, he could have maybe replaced a drummer with a second Eagle Guard. Would be another way of doing it. I imagine he probably hasn't, because that's what the Perrys do, and he's trying to differentiate himself. And that's absolutely fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So that's the command set for Marowski miniatures. I've got 3 of these to go with my 3 battalions. You've got an officer in a bicorn, so he's quite nice. He wears his bicorn sort of cocked fore and aft, whereas obviously the French, so if we go back to, I'm trying to find French officer now. Oh, actually, I haven't said that. This one here from the Perrys, sorry, from Warlord. Oh, there's a Perry's one, yeah, he's got his fore and aft as well, so fair enough. And the rest have got chapkas on. Now, chapkas are obviously awesome, so we do like a bit of chapka action on this channel. That is faux shizzle. What I like about the Duchy of Warsaw as well is they've got the bearskins, as I pointed out earlier on. Now, as much as I do like chapkas, I also really like bearskins as well, so it's nice to have those combined in a battalion, because for the Vistula Legion, I had to make the choice between giving them, whether I gave them the chapka or bearskin, and I gave them the chapka. Now this lump of lead here, let me get these out. It's probably not lead, actually, I should say, for legal purposes. Those are the horses. These are the riders. Now these are the Polish Uhlans, as they're known. Now Uhlans are just lancers, basically. The horse here seems a little bit strange. Like, look at the thickness of that neck. This guy works out. That is for sure. This is a horse that is absolutely shredded. But I think there's probably something gone wrong in the sculpting process there. He's got like a dip that goes down here. I think the neck probably should have ended there, to be honest. This like extra 5 millimeters from there and there probably shouldn't be on there. He is an absolutely hench horse, that one. This one here is a little bit better. The one with his head up. Again, though, he's still very, very deep down the neck there. But, I mean, he's not bad. The horses seem to be quite short as well. That's not necessarily a problem, as we talked about with the Krakows. They were known as Napoleon's pygmy cavalry. And that's not just because they were short, the men, but the horses were a lot more like steppe horses than, like, say, French cavalry horses. So they were a lot shorter. Anyway, so I don't necessarily mind that, if I'm honest. I think they work just fine. So let's get those horses out of the way. And we'll look at the riders themselves. So here we are. Now, these are actually quite similar-ish to the Toy Soldiers 1812 figures that we just looked at. They're very thin. They're quite slight across the shoulders, very thin across the waist. I think I know many women who'd be very jealous of having a waist like that. But, that's not too bad. One thing I do like, let me get him in profile there, is look, if you stick him on a horse, let's get the horse back, stick him on there. Look how far forward he's leaning. Now, it may sound like I'm about to criticize that. I am absolutely not. I love how far forward he's leaning. Maybe his head should be a little bit back, looking a little bit further ahead. But I really, really like how he's leaning over the neck of the horse. Maybe the one with the head down he might fit better. It looks like he's, about to stab a poor British guy on the slope of Albura. Really like him. Actually, that was a Vistula Legion, wasn't it? Really like him. I think he's a nice one. This guy here he's got his chakra. Sorry, I should say this guy's an elite company. He's wearing a Busby. So that's kind of like a bearskin for cavalry. It's got fur around the sides, and then it's got a bag, it's called, on the top here. That would be the same colour as the facings. I call it a sock, and that's actually just a cover for the Busby for wet weather. But this guy here, again, he's got his chapka. We love our chapkas on this channel. He is just a normal trooper, so he's going to be really nice to paint up as well. I really like how grizzled his face is. No, I think he's going to be a lovely model as well. I'm going to quickly grab the trumpeter. So there we go. Let's get him up. Now, he's got this falling plume here. Now, it was also sometimes called a carrot. I've seen it called. And that's very indicative of the Duchy of Warsaw. It's particularly indicative of light cavalry. We see on the troopers, they've got a feather, but their hussars have got a falling plume as well. They're very similar to the Brunswickers. So yeah, no, he's nice as well. Ooh, his leg there is a little bit splayed out. I think he's going to have some very serious knee problems there. But that's probably just where it's been bent in transit. So I'll be able to sort that out as well. So those are the Marowski miniatures. Very pleased with them. I'm glad I bought them. Are they the best on the market? Difficult to say. They're very, very nice. I would... it's sort of... I probably wouldn't go and buy their stuff that someone else does in preference to them. I would rather buy... Yeah, I wouldn't say this... For argument's sake, front rank, I buy those as a treat for myself, because I think front rank figures are significantly better than, say, the plastics. These metals, really, really nice. Would I buy them again? Yes. I mean, I have bought them again. I'm really glad that I have. But that said, would I say they're out and out the best figures on the market? Probably not. They're as good as, you know, the Perrys or the front ranks of the world. I think they're just a little bit different. Do I play Command and Colours Napoleonic? I haven't, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't. James Cuts, you won the best painting video. Oh, fantastic! Well done, but not the fan favorite awards. Well, it's probably fixed. I mean, that's yeah. We can always say if you didn't win, it's because it's fixed. Horse Arv, yeah, he absolutely is. He was not messing about, that horse, was he? I will have to get a few of Marowski's minis. I've slowly been getting a few figures from each manufacturer to compare. I think that's the best thing to do, to be honest, James. My review of them there is just what I think of them. You know, I know no better or worse than anyone else, I guess. It's just a question of what you're looking for from your minis, what you like. I really like these. One thing that I am going to do with them is I'm going to just chop off a base. So just bear with me a second. I chopped off this one I've got here is a 50mm base, so that's no good for me. Let me chop off a 40mm one. I normally use MDF bases, as you know from my getting started videos, but as I've got these plastic ones here, I will use these. I didn't realise you got the bases in the Waterloo box, actually, so that's an additional bonus. Let's get them off. Normally I wouldn't rip them off like this, but I'm trying to do them quickly. That said, it takes even longer than if I did it properly, probably. So this is a 40mm base, always cut away from you, which is exactly what I didn't do there. Very naughty. So that's a 40mm base. That's what I normally base my figures on. And I normally base them 4 to a base. So let's get these poles on there. Now, I've not done any cleaning on these at all. So if they fall over, that's not really an issue with the figures themselves. That's just because I haven't cleaned them yet. So don't hold that against them if they fall over. These are the Grenadiers, actually. So as I say, these are the ones with the... Oh, shit. There you go. See, just trying to bend the bayonet back. Snapped off completely. So that's okay. I'll be able to glue that back on. But that's something to bear in mind. So he's a Marchy March. There we go. He certainly won't be gracing the front rank of any units anytime soon. And then I'll grab this one there. See, again, that's a little bit bent there. I'm going to be a little bit more careful this time. Let's get that bent back there. Bend it there. There we go. So, one of the things I will say about those 1812 figures is I think they're lead. So, I'm not sure what the rules for lead in Russia are, but maybe not as strict as they are here in Old Blighty. So, you can see there that these guys are quite spread out. If I lie them down directly, let's do it so I can lie them down. There's quite a gap between the two figures. Now, I don't necessarily mind that, but when you consider sort of how chunky these boys are, they would fill the base a lot better. So I'm probably going to base these. I'm probably going to base these guys as I have done my Bavarians and as General Andy did for his, and that's base them on a 15mm frontage. So that will get them. Let me have a look. Each one of these is a centimetre. So no, he's not going to stand up. This is absolutely riveting television, I'm sure. So the second one will be there, and then the third one would have to go there. So that will make them much tighter because they're smaller figures. I think that'll really give them that impact that I want. So I think that they're really nice. As I say, it's a bit of a shame about that bayonet. Never mind, he's not the first one that's ever broken off. I'm sure it won't be the last. Le Casca Rioca. Hey, your video on possible conversion to the Paris French cavalry box was very, very useful. I'd like to see more videos like that from other boxes. Cheers. Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed doing it. It's a good video, actually. I am quite pleased with it. That said, it takes a very long time to do because obviously I need to do the conversions, get them all painted up and things like that. I've recently done, this is a spoiler or a secret Easter egg, I guess. I've recently done a box of French chasseurs. I've done a unit of chasseurs out of them. I've also done some lancers. I talked about in a previous live stream, I'm going to do some Portuguese cavalry out of them as well. So keep tuned for that in a not too distant future. What time are we on now? 10 to 12. So I've got about 40 minutes left. So what I wanted to crack on with today, what should we start with? Should we start with the French or the Britishes? I think we're going to do some French. So, and the reason I'm going to say we'll do some French is because, weirdly, I have not painted any French in about 18 months. As weird as it sounds, I did a load for the Waterloo game. Now, when me and General Andy signed up for that, we actually had enough figures to cover our commands, but I use it as an excuse to buy to buy more figures, basically. So that's exactly what I did. Let's get that out of the way. So these are going to be the first French that I have painted in some time, let me tell you. So let's get them on the base here. Now, with the contrast paints, I have found that the order of using the paints is very important. And I've recently just bought this brush here. Now you can see I've used it already because it's got the tide marks on there. They've not been cleaned off very well. But this is a Citadel medium base brush. I'm sure there are other cheaper, better products out there. But I am something of a Games Workshop fanboy when it comes to these things. So that's what I like to use. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by doing all the white. Now this is effectively like a wash. So no, that's fine, Louis. Thank you for tuning in, brother. It's always great to hang out with you. Thank you. This is going to be effectively a wash, and I'm going to do all the trousers with it and the cross straps as well. Now I did think about doing some of these as light infantry. Now the light infantry would be slightly different because they would have blue trousers on, but I figured I've probably got quite a bit of light infantry already, and I should have more line than I do lights, so I should probably just crack on with the light infantry. So as you can see, it's fairly rough. I'm just banging it on. I'm just doing the trousers. Now, one of the great things about these is there's only a very tiny bit of trouser anyway. So I've done it before. If you look very, very closely in my last video on the unit organizations, you can see that mixed in to the, what would be a line battalion, there are some dudes with blue trousers on because, I've got them mixed up. I did try and keep them separate as I could, but I think there was a couple of ones I couldn't find the spare companies for, so I just slung the dudes with blue trousers in. So as you can see, I'm being not super careful with these because we're going to go over the greatcoats anyway. I don't necessarily want to just spam the greatcoats because not only will that waste paint, but it will affect the layer that goes over the top of it. So I also need to do the musket straps as well. That's something that I often forget. So if I do forget in this video, please remind me to do them. So in fact, let's get all them done first, and they're done and out of the way. There we go. Dum 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 dum. Get that one there as well. So we finally got into it anyway. After an hour and 8 minutes of the paint along, we're actually painting. So that's that makes a nice change. Hopefully in the next one, I won't have so much stuff to show off, so we can get straight on with the painting. I am intending on doing a video this Sunday. As I say, it's going to be a start collecting. And I will be doing another live stream on Monday, on Bank Holiday Monday, probably about the same time. Hopefully I will work out how to do the camera. I won't have to try and work it all out again from scratch. So we can actually just get straight cracking on with it there. So grab these, do the old straps around the back. Now the back's not the most important because it's mostly going to be covered by the pack anyway. But let's get it done while we're here. And then this last part here. This is where it becomes that production line painting, really. Get the straps on these done. Again, you don't necessarily need to do these. This is quite a solid layer of white, actually, I've got built up on the undercoat here. So if they were going to pipe clay their white equipment, which is where you rub like a white clay, as the name suggests, on it, then that would, to make everything sort of clean and shiny, then that would give that effect. My dad tells me about when so my dad was 15. He was born in Southampton, and he ran away to sea. He joined the Royal Navy when he was 15 and a half. And he was telling me that they because of that he was known as boy sailor. So he was, you know, he had to do some pre-training before he could join the Navy proper. And he had a kid who was with him who just could not white his trainers. His trainers had scuffs on them, and for whatever reason he just could not get the marks off. So he ended up putting Blanco, which is very similar things, like a whiting powder, all over his trainers. And obviously, right, when they came in to inspect it, this is in the early 60s, it did not go over well with the warrant officers. I don't know what they are with the Navy. Are they warrant officers, chief petty officers? I don't really know naval ranks, if I'm honest. So the whatever a sergeant major is in the Navy was super not impressed with this kid's whitening techniques, apparently. Now, I am doing all these trousers white. As I say, I'm going to do them as all line infantry. I'm probably just going to paint them up, and then I'll worry about what units they go to in later. As you see, I've got some metal command spare already, so I might I'll probably still pick up a couple more just to get the eagle bearers and all that stuff as well. But I'm just going to paint them up as units. As companies of men for now, and they can be pushed into their units later. But what I will end up doing is, what I normally do is one of the sprues, or in this case probably two of the sprues, I paint with brown trousers. So that's because they're seeing the how many Russian Guard are coming towards them. Now it's because in Spain in particular, they replaced their trousers with, well, you know, any material that wore out, really. They replaced it with local cloth, and Spain's quite famous for its brown cloth. So not only does it help them, help the unit have a little bit of variation in there, it marks that individual figure out as a peninsular veteran, which I think is quite nice as well. So, yes, yeah, because I told you I always forget the musket straps. There we go. Let's do them. So let's crack on with these. This one here. So what are other people working on at the moment? I've obviously Storm of Steel. You're working on some French infantry. General Dan's working on some Austrians. It's nice to hear. The army that never ends. So how about the rest of you guys? What are you working on while I'm working on this Waterloo starter set? I'm going to start doing more paint-alongs, actually. They're going to be membership-only things. I do have membership on the channel, so you can pay a small fee monthly to join the channel as a member. I'm quite keen, though, that there's not a huge amount out there that's not available to everyone. But I may start doing Saturday morning paint-alongs as a regular thing anyway. So let me know if that's something that you'd enjoy. I normally paint most Saturday mornings anyway, so I thought, well, you know what, I may as well hang out with you guys while I'm doing it, and we can chat some rubbish. Command for the Principality Rheinbund Division and Bremen Battalion of the Hanseatic League. Wow, that's very specific. Very impressed with that. That's very cool. Working on Perry 1807 French. Very nice. ACW Dismounted Cavalry. Love the Perry sculpts, I have to say. Oh, they're the metal ones, aren't they? Yeah, they are nice, those ones. Mine are 8015 AB miniatures. Yeah, no, I really like the AB miniatures, actually. When I got into 50mm Napoleonics, was actually before I got 28. Well, it was before 28mm Napoleonics really existed, to be honest. I bought Essex miniatures because that's what my local shop, Wargames Emporium, sold. And they're very small 15mm figures, whereas AB I find very big. They're almost 18mm. Now, I do absolutely love the AB figures, but if I didn't have my own not insubstantial body weight in 15mm Essex minis, then I might actually be tempted to go for AB minis. They're really nice. I really like how animated the AB figures are, particularly the Command. You know, you've got an 18mm figure, and he's as easily identifiable, if not more so in some cases, than a Perry's or a front rank 28mm figure. So no, I've got a lot of time for the AB figures actually. Unfortunately, the only thing I don't like about them, as I say, is their weird scale. They're a sort of scale unto themselves. So you know, doing it for sharp practice is fine because you know you don't need all the world's men. But I think if you were doing it as a you know, if you had to collect both sides of the army, then it could get very, very expensive because I don't think there's really any alternatives out there than having to use the AB minis, and they are not cheap. I'm painting Carabiniers, however, 120 Prussian Reservists and Landwehr have just arrived. So speed paint is on the cards. Yeah, no, absolutely. We all love a speed paint. But you've got to give the Carabiniers a love first. Because they just look so cool. That's another one on my wish list actually of figures that I wish they produced in plastic. Would be French early / mid-war dragoons, where they've got a bit of the waistcoat showing at the bottom of their jacket. Because in the same box you could do pre-1812 Carabiniers as well, and they're also super cool with the bearskins on. And the big lapels and fronts on their coats. So no, I really like Carabiniers. They're not perhaps as successful as they would like to have thought they were during the wars, but especially if they got charged by Russian Guard, they didn't seem to like that very much. But they are fantastic looking figures. They work well with Museum Minis and Blue Moon. Oh, right, okay, well that's good then. I didn't realise that. So, well, that's nice then. There's some variation you can use out there with AB. James Cuts just had a bargain, £45 Russian Star Army arrived. Don't dare open it. Holy moly, that is a ridiculously good deal. As I've said before several times on this channel, I really, really like the Warlord Russians. I prefer them to the Perry ones. Now, if someone were to say I prefer the Perry ones, I think the Warlord ones are not as good. That's fair enough. You know, I think that you know you could argue either way, but I think the fact it's even an argument says something about the quality of the Warlord Russians. And 45 quid for that starter set is an absolute steal, mate. You've done really, really well there. So very jealous. Again, just going with the old straps. Get the musket straps done. What time are we on? No, 3 minutes past 12. Right. Get going there. So as you can see, I'm just slapping this on. Buying this flat brush has been really, really useful for these. As you can see, though, there is a tide mark coming up here. So I'm going to need to get rid of that at some point soon before it sets. Let's see if I can scrape it off here. Scrape off there as well. One thing I like about this cutting mat actually is when I did my first live stream, it was new for the live stream. I think I bought it sort of 2 or 3 days before. I think it had a mark on it from something I'd spilled on it in the run-up. But as we can see, it's getting rather veteran now. It's got all this nice constellation of paint splodges on it, and it's mostly from doing these contrast paints where it flicks off. So trying to scrape that off there has screwed me a little bit, I think. So let's wash the brush out. I'm going to get some soap on this this brush after I finish the stream. That's something I've started doing recently, actually, is using a lot more brush soap. And I have found it very useful, actually. One of the reasons I've never bothered in the past is because I've thought, well, I trash the brushes anyway, so what's the point in spending extra money on trying to make them better when I trash them anyway? But I think it was a bit of a false dichotomy, really, because the reason I was trashing the brushes perhaps is because I wasn't using the soap. So I was blaming myself when really it was my brush care that was the problem. So no, I do tend to use it a bit more now. Last time Mr. Bird, last time I said that I paint the parts individually, but that is only because I'm painting my very first battalion and assembled it, but I found I couldn't get as much detail as I want. Next battalion is going to be painted on the sprue. It's very controversial. I cop a lot of grief the first time I did it. It's just weird because you've got people have got their own way of painting. I assumed that like everyone did it, but yeah, no, I got a lot of heat last time. How long have I been streaming for? I just started a few weeks ago. Well, look at how long it took me to set up. I'd like to say this is like the first one I've ever done, but no, I don't do it that often. But the first one I did was the day after Good Friday last year. So it was the Saturday, Easter Saturday, I guess it is, isn't it? That I did in 2020. That was the first time I tried it. I did another Easter one this year. I'm not sure I did any. Did I do many more last year? I tell you what it does make me think of is that last Easter it was red hot. It was really, really hot because I remember really sweating while I was doing the live stream. But yes, it's nice and cool today actually. But anyway, yes. So I did it. I don't know, about 14 months ago. Probably less than that. 13 months ago was the first one. But I've not done a huge amount. I think I've only done 6 or 7 that are on the channel. So yeah, that's how many I've done. But I didn't realise you were live streaming actually. To be fair, so I shall have to check those out. I've not really had much time to do a lot of YouTube watching the last couple of weeks. Work. For those of you who don't know, I work as a clerk in a hospital, and it's picked up to pre-COVID levels, and it's getting a little bit crazy, I have to say. I think maybe I got used to not being that busy. I don't know, but yeah, no, it's getting a bit mental. No, that's fine. That's fine, Stormsteel. I know they put them in like a separate section, which always seems a little bit weird to me. I might have a look at clipping the reviews of the Marowski miniatures and the unboxing in this one. That's something that I've only ever clipped once, and that was because I did the French Guard. And the problem I found is a lot of the videos people don't watch to the end, which is that's fair enough. People have got lives. When it's an hour-long video, like not everyone can watch the end. But I was quite pleased with the Waterloo stuff, and it's quite iconic. So I didn't want people to miss out on that, so I clipped it. That's the only time I've ever clipped anything. I can't entirely remember how I did it. But yes, no, you're right. Being stuck on the live streams part of the page is not great. I could probably do with clipping it and uploading them as, quote, proper videos, just so people can see them. The issue with painting on the sprue is risk of damaging the paintwork when you remove them. Also, often you have to clean up the models to remove mold lines. That is true, and that is what I've done. I was going to say that's what I've done on here. You can see there, have I scraped that one? I think I have scraped that one, but there's still a little bit there. So you're right. That is the large problem with painting on the sprue. I think you can mitigate that. You can clean them on the sprue, and I think you can do what I've done here. Clip those sides off so you can get your paintbrush in and around. But yeah, no, I think it's just a different approach. I don't think it's any better or worse than any other. It's something that I've got used to. It's something that I do quite a lot now. But again, it's not necessarily for everyone. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Clive, I did my great game, Hanoverian Warlord Infantry on the Sprue. 2 regiments, 3 battalions, 90 figures at a time. I do entire battalions at a time, otherwise I forget what colours I use. That's absolutely it, yeah. I find it really, really helps for the production line, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am that you didn't say, when I was going to the great game, I did my French heavy cavalry on the on the Sprue. Because, yeah, that might have been a bit awkward if you were a French cavalry commander there. I had someone asking me about that the other day, actually. They commented on the video, what was the French general's reasoning for not attacking with his guard cavalry? I was like, well, he told me that he didn't want to risk losing them. And the bloke was like, he does know they're not real people, doesn't he? I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Still having the therapy to get over it, so it's fine. One thing I'm not really doing here, and it's probably going to come back and bite me in the arse later, is the straps on the backpacks. So I've kind of missed them, but never mind. I can crack on with those later. So let's get these done as well. I find so I did a live stream when the contrast paints first came out, and I was getting to grips with them. Something that I found as I've started to use them a lot more, I've used them for about a year now, is some are a lot better than others. So I'm going to use a grey in a bit to do the greatcoats. I'm probably going to call it a day after I've done some of the greatcoats. But yeah, so the grey is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. The best ones I've found are the Mephiston Red, I think it is. Or Blood Angel Red or something like that. Something to do with the Blood Angels anyway. That red, although I'm told the other red's pretty good as well. So that one and Dark, well, I just think it's called Dark Angel Green. I think it might be Caliban Green, something like that. The green that's for the Dark Angels anyway, the dark green. I use that for Russians. Those two are absolutely awesome. I love those two. And the white, obviously the white is an absolute godsend for Napoleonic painters. And that's why I promote it so much. Because it's a product that I use a lot. I recommend other people do as well. Games Workshop don't pay me. Games Workshop don't... well, they used to, but they don't anymore. They used to when I worked for them, not when I was doing the channel. They never pay me very much. But, yeah, so they don't pay me. They don't ask me to do any of their products or anything like that. I just think for Napoleonic gamers in particular, who, no matter what nation you do... all right, Austrians have white uniforms. Yeah, that's fine. But there's a lot of white on the French. There's a lot of white on the British. There's a lot of white on Prussians, Spanish. So whatever, Portuguese have all got white trousers. So whatever you're doing, there's always going to be a large part of white. And that's why I think the gospel of the apothecary white is one that's worth spreading, because I think that it's absolutely phenomenal as a paint. Really speeds up the process, gives you great results for minimal effort, which is what I'm all about when I'm painting anyway. The Prussian design with speed paint will be the first I paint on Sprue, and my first plastic since the Airfix days. Wow, okay. Cutting the Sprue back is definitely the way. Yeah, I would agree, Shring. I would definitely try and do that. If there are... you might have support. So, for instance, on this one here... let me just wash the brush out while I point this one out. In fact, I've left a little bit of flash on, so it's even better. So, for this guy here, there's a support that comes down from here, and it goes onto his arm, and it goes onto his arm as well, I think. So cut that off as well. I've left a little bit on there. Just shave that off. Yeah, so cut that support off as well. So there's no... the only place it's connected is at the base here. And that means that when I come to cutting the figures off, don't use a knife, use side cutters to cut them off. Then you won't, I mean, hopefully you won't damage the paint. You can still damage the paint because you're handling the figures. So be aware of that. You can varnish them to minimize that problem, obviously. But I tend not to varnish my figures, to be honest, because if I was going to varnish them, I'd use a spray. And I've heard so many horror stories about people using spray varnishes that I'm a little bit reticent to, if I'm honest, because I'm concerned that the figures, which, you know, I mean, my figures aren't particularly well painted, but they're figures I've spent a lot of time on, and more importantly than anything else, I don't want to have to repaint them. You know, I want to use that time to paint something else. I don't want to end up spraying them and then they all end up with like white blotches on, or they just become unusable. So that's why I don't varnish my figures if I can avoid it. I think General Dan uses a lot of contrast paints on his Austrians as well. Not sure what he uses. Clive, you use Basilicanum Grey for white on my Saxons and Berg. Yeah, I mean, they wear white uniforms as well, don't they? So I think Dan might use that. If he's still here, he might be able to drop into the comments. But he might not be, I don't know. But yeah, no, the contrast stuff really has revolutionised Napoleonic painting. I don't see much about it in historical gaming circles. You know, I'm not seeing a huge amount about it in Wargames Illustrated. I think they might have done a review when it first came out. But I mean, it's just so good. It really is. I know there's a lot of hate for Games Workshop out there, and so, some of it justified, some of it not. But when they do something good, you know, they should get the benefits for it, I think. Winsor & Newton Professional Artist Spray Matte Varnish is the best on the market. Use it for a decade and never had a single problem. Well, that's good enough recommendation for me then, so I will go with that one then. Dan Gregory, I build the models while the bottom of the feet, circular bit of plastic still attached to sprue. And glue sprue to a bit of cut off wood as a makeshift handle. Yeah, no, that's a really good way of doing it as well. Yeah. For painting white, do you go with a primer base coat like Grey Seer with the Apothecary White? Sorry, just joined and missed that bit about the white. Well, that's fine, Rattel Mike. It varies. So I tend to use white. That's what I've gone with on these ones. Just straight white. Army Painter white it was. That said, I do use Grey Seer as well. Is it grey? No. Sorry, no. I don't use Grey Seer. I use Corax white. I use that quite a lot as well. I do want to use Grey Seer for 1/300 scale vehicles, but I haven't got any at the moment, so I haven't used that. I've used white on the 1/300 scale vehicles, and they looked absolutely shocking. So I can recommend not doing that. If you want something that's a bit warmer, then use either Bone from Army Painter, or you can use the Wraith Bone from Games Workshop as well. That's really good if you're doing, say you're doing barbarians. They've got a lot of flesh. Spray them with that and put the flesh over. That's really good. You'll notice on this figure here. Let me get him back up on my painting stick. This guy here, I've repainted his face. Now I've actually painted that with bone, whatever it's called, skeletal bone or something I think it's called. And then I'm going to put the flesh over that. Otherwise, they look very pallid. They look like they're dead. Now, if you want to paint wounded markers, actually, paint the face white and then use Guilliman flesh over the top, and you get a really pallid look, which is fantastic for you know, casualties and stuff. But obviously, if you want someone to look like they're a little healthier, then you might want to go for the might want to paint them bone first and then paint the flesh over the top. James Cuts, I only use matte varnish through the airbrush, but only on metal minis. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, I would only use it on metal minis as well, if I'm honest. These Guard Cossacks, I think I would probably varnish them when I've done. And this Polish army, I will almost certainly varnish those guys as well. So you recommend an airbrush? That's interesting. I've not got one. It's something that I've looked at getting, but not anytime soon because they are quite expensive. And I just bought a 3D printer, so I'm looking into stuff for that at the moment. But yeah, no, my brother's got an airbrush, so I might talk to him about doing me some figures. Painting white, use Corax white as the base coat, contrast on top for darker colours, such as the contrast Grey Seer is a better result. Yeah, no, fair enough. Yep. We'll try it. Varnishing is always slightly nerve-wracking. Yeah, no, it is for me, mate. That's why I don't. That's why I don't do it. I use Umbral Spray Matte Varnish. It evens out all the shine a lot. Right, okay, that's fair enough. Pitt, I've never had an issue with varnishing. I use cans, brush applied, and airbrush. Never had an issue so far. No, that's, I mean, well, that's great. I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? And I guess, you know, there's no reason why I should think going in, you know, this is going to be a problem. It's just that 1% chance that comes round. It's going to be when you've done LaSalle with these fantastic leopard skin Shabrack, or you know, the Duke of Wellington display base that you've spent like 6 months painting and stuff like that. It's always going to be that one that the varnish ruins, isn't it? It's never going to be, oh yeah, here's 3 voltigeurs I just decided to spray up. I use Foundry Dark Palomino with a Guilliman flesh wash. Yep, no, that's fair enough. Yeah. So that's a horse thing, isn't it, Palomino? I know that from the Bruce Springsteen song. He's got a Palomino in that. I think I've got some American Civil War horses I've painted as Palominos as well, which from the Perrys, which is quite fun as well. I always associate them with you know, the Wild West and all that stuff. A cheap airbrush for priming. It saves an absolute fortune on spray cans. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Easy to do with Zenithal priming too, which works fantastic with contrast. Right, okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, ultimately, I guess it's one of those things that will eventually pay for itself. The more you use it, the less you're using spray cans. So instead of spending, you know, 12 quid or whatever it is on a spray can, then, you know, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're spending less on those paints than you would have done on the spray can. So yeah, no, that makes sense. As anyone paints on varnish, I share the same issue trying to spray it on years ago. I used to just paint it on, but I don't bother these days. Like I say, I did actually use a paint on varnish on a I want to say Uxbridge. I don't think it was Uxbridge. It might have been Uxbridge figure that I had, and it just did not work at all. And it looked rather shocking. And that was probably my application of the varnish more than anything else. I don't really know, but yeah, no, he looked terrible. In fact, I had to buy the Wargames Illustrated Giants in miniature one of him, where he's like leaning back on the horse, because I just could not look at that figure anymore, and I didn't want to have to buy another set of 3. So instead of buying 3 figures for 9 quid, I bought one figure for 5 quid. But well, you know, that's Wargamers economics for you, I guess. He is a nice figure though. I recently also acquired the Giants in miniature Napoleon and Roostrum. He was not cheap. I managed to get him off eBay, and I did have to pay over the odds for him, but I'm very, very glad I did. In fact, I'm looking at a friend of mine's a commission painter, so I'm going to give him to paint up, and hopefully he will become the sort of, you know, the moment I've got LaSalle is the emblem of the channel. Well, hopefully this Giants in miniature Napoleon and Roostrum will be the new one when I get round to getting him painted. So, knowing the speed that James works at, it'll be a while. So don't worry about that if you like LaSalle. So I'm just cracking on with the final sprue for the straps here. This is quite good because it means that by the time I've finished this, the first sprue will be dry. I find that the contrast paints dry incredibly quickly anyway, but they also need to be completely dry before you move on to the next part. So that's not necessarily the end of the world. Let's have a look. I killed a few flags. Yeah, fair enough. I got an airbrush in January. It's really changed everything for me. Yeah, I hear that a lot, actually. I hear a lot of people say that, oh, yeah, you know, I didn't think I needed an airbrush, and then I bought one, and I can't believe I've done for so long without one. You're probably right. The thing that puts me off, though, is the pain in the arse of setting it up and taking it down again. That's the thing that really puts me off. I used to have, like, just a cheapo one from Games Workshop. So we went up for a managers meeting one weekend, and I absolutely hated going to the managers meetings. I really did. But yeah, that's a separate story. And we were all in the bar one night in Bugman's, and we were told, like, oh yeah, like, go out to the main hall. There's a surprise for you. So we went into like the gaming hall. This is when it like before it got refurbed. So the whole that whole massive room was full of tables. And some of the tables had been cleared away, and there was a pallet with Games Workshop tool cases on there. So we were like, oh, right, you know, we've all had like 5 beers. They're going to make us do some bullshit bonding session. Yeah, this is going to be great. What are we going to do with hobby tools when we're all like 5 beers in? And the head of retail was there as well. He was going on. And he said, yeah, blah, 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 and we're phasing these tool sets out. So if you want one, help yourself. So that was awesome. So we got like a little carry case that had a spray gun, a saw, some blades in there, what's it called, pin vise, some files. It was pretty, all in like foam. It was pretty cool. I mean, I think Dutch sold them for like 50, 60 quid, and we got them given away, so that was quite nice. So I do have an airbrush from there, but I don't have a compressor, so I had to buy the cans of compressed air to use, and to be honest, it was just a massive pain in the arse. Is there a new Napoleonic minis / personalities in the making? There is. I keep starting them and then I get distracted, or I'm just not very happy with how it's going. I'm currently working on the next part of the Brunswickers. So that sort of includes the Duke of Brunswick in there as well, sort of. Although he didn't do a huge amount, it would appear, during the Peninsular War. So that's where we are at the moment in his story. But there will be some soon. I'm looking again at some War of 1812 stuff. I really, really want to do one on what's his name? Tecumseh, I think it's pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. He's the Indian chief who sided with the British against the Americans in the War of 1812. An absolutely fascinating guy, just phenomenal, really, really interesting. But again, it's just getting information about him that's difficult. But I do have a biography of him by John. Oh, what's his name? Sugden, John Sugden, which I haven't read yet. I'm currently reading the Cavalry Maiden, so I might do one on her. Dubrova, she's quite an interesting figure as well. She was a Russian, sort of not necessarily a noblewoman, but upper middle class, I think we could probably say, who ran away in 1807 to join the Russian army as a hussar. Now, she disguised herself as a man. The disguise had mixed success, shall we say. But it's about her memoirs as a hussar soldier. She was sort of like a gentleman cadet, almost. So I might do one on her next. Tecumseh, there you go. Cheers, Let's Posting. I mean, let's be honest, it's very rare that I get a pronunciation right on this channel, so that's really good. Thank you for I can hit the ground running with this one, so no, that's good to know. But yeah, no, he's a fascinating dude. The British commander refused to attack the Americans. He was like, look, we've not got enough troops. I can't. There's about, I don't know, I'm just making up the numbers, but there's something like 10,000 British troops here and 50,000 Native American Indians. We don't have the numbers. We can't take the Americans. And Tecumseh said, well, if you don't attack, there's 50,000 of us, 10,000 of you, we're going to kill you all. which I'm like, I've got to admire the stones on that guy, because he was fighting to get his homeland back. He's quite an interesting parallel when you compare him to someone like Sitting Bull. Obviously, they're very different cultures. I mean, they're all Native Americans or American Indians, whatever, however they like to describe themselves. But they are very, very different cultures from one another. The Plains Indians and the what I was always called the Woodland Indians. So he's a fascinating dude. I'm looking forward to reading more about him. The War of 1812 is one of my favourite quotes in military history from future President Jackson. Upon arriving at a gun battery, he ordered them, elevate them guns a little lower. What an idiot. Well, that's a good officer for you, isn't it? That's the kind of thing they like to come out with. I think one of my favourite ones, I think it was Norman Schwarzkopf. I want to say it was Norman. I want it to be Norman Schwarzkopf, because he's a personal hero of mine. But I think it was him that said during the Gulf War, the French weren't taking part in it, although they did send the Foreign Legion, I seem to remember. And I think it was him, but if it wasn't him, it was someone similar. And the quote was, going to war without the French is like going hunting without my accordion. which, which I think is an absolutely amazing quote. Very unfair to the French, but it's still a very funny quote. So I'm just slamming a bit of a wash on the British now. Now this is a wash, this isn't contrast. I sprayed these guys with Dragon Red from Army Painter. So that's why it's gone on the trousers as well. I'll have to repaint those either white or grey, depending on how I do them. And this is Carroburg Crimson. Let me put the lid on. So that's an old school shade. I say old school-ish. And what this does is, yeah, I mean, we all know how washes work these days. It just brings all the details out. And it's something which... So I've had a bit of a change in my painting. Hello, Grandad's Art Space. Which was, so I started off, I'd spray everything white, actually, originally. This is when I was much, much younger. And I didn't like it because it would show, if you missed the tiniest bit, it would always stick out. So then I moved to spraying stuff black, and I probably did that for about 15 years. I'd use a black undercoat, and I'd build up from there, you know, and that would be... In fact, a lot of my Napoleonic figures will have, the early ones will have been painted like that. The Victrix French in particular. So you start off, you know, painting, say, dark red, and then you do a medium red, then you do a light red, then you bang an ink on it in those days, or a wash when the washers came out. So that's how I would do it then. Then I moved to using coloured sprays. Now that's what I've got here. That's why I use things like red sprays or grey sprays or blue sprays or whatever. I think I've got 100 Russians downstairs. I've sprayed green, and that just does all the base coats. So in this case, it's all the jackets. I can bang a wash on the top, and they are done. So that's quite nice. But now with the contrast paints, I've gone back to spraying white or just off white, as we've just been discussing, and using the contrast paints over that. I'm not sure which one is better, to be honest. I find with the contrast paints that you need a lot more concentration. Whereas with these, you know, as you can see, I'm doing straps, I'm doing cuffs, I'm just doing the whole torso of the figure. I'm just banging this on because I'm going to have to paint over it anyway. So I'm not sure which one's quicker, which one takes longer. But as it stands with the contrast, I think they give a slightly better result. And after our chat about the varnish earlier on, I have had washers that have gone white as well, actually, if it's on particularly thick. So if I left this here, now I'm not saying it would happen in this case, but occasionally it dries and there's like a white residue that gets left behind. I think that's if the wash isn't shaken enough properly, or if Games Workshop have just messed up the formula, which, you know, also happens. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. That's the evolution. It's come full circle, really. I started off spraying white, then I went black, then I went coloured base coats, and now I've gone back to off-white again, so I can bust out the old contrast paints and go from there. I'll just catch up on the chat. Question about the Brunswickers. All right, okay. I read a source saying they fielded Uhlans at Waterloo, but also only had Hussars after changing to ULs. I just want Lancers. Should I look at Polish instead? Well, I, for one, commend you on just wanting Lancers. I love that. It's like, I don't care about what the army is. I just want Lancers. Love it. That's excellent. I'm not even joking. I think that's the best attitude to have. I love it. You could go Poles. The Russians had Lancers as well. Russian Hussars had Lancers, actually. So they probably had more Lancers than anyone else. Austrians, they had Uhlans as well. Now, the Brunswick UL, or OL, I'm not. I was told it's UL in my last video. I haven't got to the Waterloo stuff yet, so this should be taken with a pinch of salt because I'm focusing very much on the Peninsular War. But in the Peninsular War, they had a battalion of infantry which was spread across 4 different divisions, and they had a regiment of cavalry that was Hussar. They were Hussars at the time. When the Peninsular War finished in 1814, this is where the taking with a pinch of salt comes in. When the Peninsular War finished in 1814, the Duke of Brunswick went back to Brunswick and reformed the army to be a much more modern army. because when he was in the peninsula, Brunswick didn't exist. It was part of the Kingdom of Westphalia that Napoleon set up. So he went back to Brunswick and started off with basically a clean slate. His army and his nation were very much in the Prussian tradition, but he personally was, the brother-in-law of the King of England. He fought alongside Wellington and the British. So he was fairly British in his military outlook. That said, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't have Lancer Uhlans. The Prussians certainly did. I think I've seen some Brunswick Uhlan figures as well. So I would say if you're going to go Waterloo campaign, Brunswickers you can use Lancers if you want. If you want to go Peninsula, I probably wouldn't go with Brunswickers. But that said, you could always say that they are allied Portuguese Lancers or even Spanish Lancers that are attached to the Brunswicker troops. But I mean, realistically, Brunswickers, you can do the whole Brunswicker contingent in the Peninsular War in I don't know, probably 75 figures. So if you want Brunswickers where they had a full army, you want to look at the Waterloo campaign anyway. The French were on the left flank of Desert Storm. Oh, right, okay, well there you go then. So it may not have been Storm and Norman that said that then, but that is definitely a quote. I'll have to find out who it's from. Hang on, give me a second. I'm sure Mr. Google will have the answer. Hang on. Going to war without the French. There we go. It was Storm and Norman. It might have been when the French were just playing hard to get, and they were going to pretend that they weren't part of the coalition for Desert Storm. I'm not sure, but that's a good quote. I do like Schwarzkopf. There was combined Brunswick Hussar Uhlan regiment at Waterloo. Only one squadron of Uhlans. All right, okay, so there you go. So if you are after Lancers, then there's two ways. Well, it's my Brunswick army, and in my Brunswick army, I've got a lot more Uhlans than an historical one. That's absolutely fine. That's really how I do my armies. I really like this, so that's what I'm going to have. Or you can perhaps look at a different army that employed Lancers a little bit more. I mean, realistically, I think probably the army with the most Lancers was probably the French, to be honest. They had tons of them. But, the most continental European armies, even the Prussians, had Landwehr Lancers. Grandad's Art Space, I always paint mine in grey by hand. Well, you, sir, are the best of us. I used to also undercoat all my figures by hand. I still do occasionally, if I'm like, look, I've got these 4 figures that need painting and it's raining, I'll just like bang some hand undercoat on there. But I'm very glad that I've discovered spray paints and I don't have to do whole armies of that, I have to say. I think the quote comes from before the French had fully joined the coalition. Oh, well, okay, that's fair enough. They had a similar thing with Operation Iraqi Freedom as well, didn't they? I seem to remember they were making big noises that they were going to vote against it in the UN, but the Americans were going to do it anyway. So that would have then called their potential clout into question, which then would have said, well, why are you guys on the Permanent Security Council when someone like Japan or South Korea or even other large militaries, even someone like Turkey, they've got a huge military. Why aren't they on the Security Council? So the French ended up saying, oh yeah, we'll vote it through just so there's no questions of our legitimacy. I remember that at the time. That was obviously a scenario that I was following quite closely. Landwehr cavalry was 40% of the Prussian cavalry in the Waterloo campaign. It certainly was, James. The only downside is that you would have to collect Prussians. I'm really kidding. The Prussians, actually, I don't know. I'm getting a lot more time for the Prussians. I'm thinking, hopefully, when the lockdown ends and the world gets back to some semblance of normal, I'm thinking I might actually go back to Berlin and possibly do some 2-camera pieces in and around sort of Berlin and the areas around Brandenburg. I'd really like to go to Jena, and obviously Auerstadt, and maybe do some battlefield in the field report stuff. But that's all for the future. Obviously, at the moment, I'm not sure how Germany's doing actually and all that stuff, but probably better than us. But we'll see how that goes. I'm at the dregs of my coffee. I've already gone over my time as well. I said I am definitely going to have to disappear before 1 o'clock. But let me see. I've got 5 sprues to wash. So let's get these sprues washed. And then I'm going to have to draw stumps on this session. Now, I would recommend if you are painting something like the Waterloo set. I'm jumping around a little bit. But I would probably stick with doing one side and then the other. And for me, I would probably start off with the side that I was least interested in. Because if I did it the other way around, I just would never get around to painting the other side. So that's for me anyway. So, were it for me, I'd probably start off with the British and then paint the French. But that said, I do quite like the British. These British figures, they get a bad rap, I think. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, they're not very good." Just give me 1 second. Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, they're not very good. They're not as good as the Perrys." And to be honest, they're probably not as good as the Perrys, but they're absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with them. The Perrys are very nice. I like the fact that the Perrys do Waterloo and Peninsula in the same box. I think that's very intelligent figure design. Really, really impressed with that. But no, I think the Perry's stuff is better, but not so much better that the Warlord stuff is getting the bin bad. Again, a lot of people really, really don't seem to like Warlord. I don't fully get it. I kind of get it because people think that they're trying to be the Games Workshop of historicals, and you know what? They probably are. But, whatever. It doesn't really bother me, I have to say. Let's have a look. The Wargames Atlantic Reservists are great. Well, that's good to hear. I haven't bought any yet, but I very much would like to. I'm going to have a wander into town tomorrow, so I might pick up a box of their riflemen, if they've got any left. Now, I have rifles coming out of my absolute ears, so I might end up painting them as Cazadors, or just painting them up as something else. I'm looking at doing perhaps a Maxi Minis video on them, because I don't really need the riflemen, because I've got gazillions already. So we might be looking at things like... what's the word? Chasseur Britannique, or something like that. Obviously, Royal American Rifles is the obvious choice for them. But yeah, so I've not really got any of the Wargames Atlantic stuff, but hopefully tomorrow I will be picking some up if they've got any in stock. I'm also painting up at the moment something that's a completely new range for me anyway, which is the Perry's Afghan figures. So I bought a box of those. I'm going to use them as Azabs in my Ottoman army. So an Azab is just, he's a local fellahin, a local land working peasant who gets told by the local governor, guess what, you're in the army now. So he goes and grabs the scimitar that's been on in his family since, the Crusades or whatever. And then he goes and fights the British. Yeah, no, I've been painting those, and they're a little bit different. Again, they're nice with the contrast paints because they've got a lot of flowing robes on. So the white contrast paints make that almost effortless to paint. But yeah, no, Wargames Atlantic, not a manufacturer I've painted any of their figures yet. I am very much looking forward to getting some, though. Yeah, I'm building my Peninsula armies of French and British in whatever hat wear and uniforms they wore from 1810 to 1814. as I'm sure that uniforms wore out and newer gear was starting to come in. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best way to do it, to be honest. You know, don't be too precious about it. My when I was researching my Vistula Legion, some people said, well, you know, they wore Polish style coats. Some people saying that they got resupplied when they entered Spain, so they actually wore French style coats. Ultimately, I don't think anyone really knows, and certainly, as I've said this story before, when I was in the army, it was only the TA, admittedly, so it was a second line unit. But I mean, we had combats going back to the 60s. We had jungle combats that were issued. Yeah, you know, it was just crazy. Yeah, and that was okay. Admittedly, we had Combat 95 came in because you know, I joined in 97. So Combat 95 came in, all that went out the window. But we were still wearing jungle combats and things like that. You know, people would buy their own equipment and things like that. So I think uniformity in Napoleonics is vastly overrated. I agree. I think there should you know, there's a mix of uniforms on parade. Absolutely. Now, this is a much lighter red. Like I said, I think this might have been when the can was running out, or maybe they're spraying white first. I don't know. But yeah, these are looking very very shiny. These guys. Any idea what colour the little good on French infantry as part of their equipment? I think it's a water bottle, but not entirely sure. It's actually a good. The French weren't issued with canteens. The British canteen, the light blue one, pretty much everyone had those. Russians, Prussians had them by the end of the war. But the French never issued a canteen, weirdly. So they used to use actual goods. You know, you'd hollow it out. I don't know what you do with a good, but you end up with just the outside of it. And you can use that for fill with water. So the way I paint mine is I do them effectively bone. It's the color I use for bone, unbleached cotton, all sorts. Basically, I paint them with what's the Games Workshop bone color? I should have it around here actually. Screaming Skull, and then I wash it with the brown wash, Agrax Earthshade, and that's it. That's it, done. Occasionally, I'll paint them as bottles. So what I tend to do with that is I'll paint the metal and then put a blue or green wash over the top. But yeah, most of the time there are goods. I think one of them's got a bottle. I think one of them's got a gourd, if I seem to remember right. Let's have a look. Oh no, he's a British one. Yeah, this guy here, that there's a gourd, so that should be painted bone, or you know, like a light brown. He's got a bottle. He's got like a Chianti type bottle with a wicker basket around it. He's got a gourd as well. He's got a metal canteen. Now I always paint that metal. I'm not sure if it is or not. So yeah, no, it is literally a good. It is a like an off sort of a yellowy brown, off-white color. Really enjoyed this morning. Well, thank you, David. Yeah, no, I've enjoyed it too, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been good. I've got a lot more done in this one than I've done previously, actually. Considering I spent most of the time rabbiting on about figure manufacturers, then yeah, it's not too shoddy at all. But yeah, with the 1812 Toy Army stuff, check it out. It's good stuff. Like I say, not particularly cheap. If you can find what they sell elsewhere, I'd probably get it from, say, the Perrys or whatever. But you know, I think it also gets to a point where, because customs are going to hit you anyway, you may as well get a larger order than a smaller one. That's what I tell myself anyway. Looking forward to the Perry's plastic Franco-Prussians. Oh, mate, you have absolutely no idea how much I'm looking forward to those. Yeah, yeah, insanely. I would love to do a campaign that involves, you know, French, Prussians, you know, Franco-Prussians, American Civil War, Victorian British. You know, that'd be awesome. Just do like a whole like global campaign. You know, oh yeah, you know, it's basically the Franco-Prussian War as the First World War. Oh man, that would be absolutely sick. That would be incredible. Oh yes, no, I can't wait to do that. There's a company that already do Franco-Prussian War models. They're nice. I think they're called Clash of Eagles or something. Age of Eagles, it might be, something like that. They're nice figures. They're weird though. They're sort of very long and thin. But I mean, the poses are nice, but they're super expensive. It's like 12 figures for 25 quid. It's like 12 infantrymen for 25 quid. I'm like, no, I'm all right, thanks. No, I'm good. Terrific chat, chaps. Great to listen. Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for tuning in. When my nephew was fighting in the Afghan war, they ended up using USA gear as they couldn't get their own at times, and the Yanks called them the borrowers. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think there's a lot of chopping and changing goes on anyway. Are you not a fan of the Prussians as an army or the models painting? To be honest, it's a bit of a meme, really. I do actually quite like the Prussians. The meme comes about because of the people who say, well, yeah, the British didn't actually win the Battle of Waterloo. It was the Prussians that won. So yeah, no, I don't really mean it. It's just a bit of a joke. But no, the having done 4 videos on the Prussians now. They're absolutely fascinating. They really are an interesting army because they show such massive change between 1806, where they've got phenomenal uniforms but are an absolutely appalling army, through to 1815, where I would argue they really are the in almost sort of infant form. They're not ready yet, but they really are showing what the army is going to become at its arguable high point in 1916, which then continues, to the Second World War. But I think, yeah, in sort of proto form, the Prussians in 1815 are a really fascinating army. I loved doing the Battle of Ligny video. Really, really enjoyed doing that. I'm starting to spool up for the Prussians at Waterloo. So obviously that's going to be about Place Noire and Ligny mostly. But yeah, no, the Prussians are they're an interesting army. I joke. I also joke as well that they're full of peasants as well, because it's a Landwehr. But no, they are a good army actually. I do like the Prussians. Eagles of Empire, there you go. Yeah, they do seem to do an interesting rule set, but they have battalions of like 8 figures or something, don't they? Which, having just complained about how expensive the models are, I am more of a master battles kind of guy. So, but no, they do look interesting. They've got to be absolutely pupping themselves over the Perry release. They really need to be future-proofing themselves. They need to be doing it now. Otherwise, I think they're going to find it a very, very difficult market to keep. Right, well, chaps, it's now just coming up to 1 o'clock. I need to make a phone call before 1 o'clock, which is why I've got to go now. But thank you so much for hanging out today. I'm going to leave you on my final image of the British infantry with their washed red uniforms. The rest I'm going to do is Americans, so I might crack on with those later. But thank you very much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Just to remind you, I'm going to still be putting out a video tomorrow on start collecting the Italians this time. I'm also going to be doing another live stream the day after, Bank Holiday Monday. And hopefully we'll be cracking on and we'll be seeing a little bit more progress. I think what I might do next is I'll probably do the American infantry. I'll wash them. I'll contrast paint those. And then I'll probably repaint most of the British trousers because I'm going to do something with those. It'll save time on Monday. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for interacting in the chat, those of you who did, and liking and all that good stuff. If you've not subscribed, please do so. The YouTube algorithm seems to be sorting its life out a little bit more these days, but still not as I would want it to be. But thank you very much, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.